Let me just point out at the outset that when you first log into classroomsalon.org now, you are being given the option to use the old Salon version, at least for the time being, that I featured in the initial video from last week when I was first orienting you on how to use this site. I'm going to show you just a couple of the initial differences that I'm seeing between the two versions, and you can decide which one you want to use. And I've been in contact with the folks up in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon about a couple of my concerns that we may still see some fixes on as they continue to tweak the user interface. But here's the gist of three items that I think are a little bit different about the two versions, and you can decide which one you want to use. In the new system, if you just come in and put your email right here, and you decide, okay, I'll try the new system, here are a couple things that are different about it from, say, last week's video. So as I log in here, the first view of it is already a little bit different in that if you want to open up our first collection, you no longer have the choices of opening it up in annotate mode or view mode or discussion navigator mode. What you do is you just click collection 1 and it comes up already marked up. So if you're entering the process sort of late in the game, you will see everyone else's annotations at first, which is probably not the way you want to first read a collection. But there is a fix for this that I've discovered. You can go over here to filter comments, and you can go to, let's say, professor's prompts, because I typically will not have any prompts inside these texts. As you know, my questions are over in the course document entitled Annotations and Responses. So if you click on professor's prompts, you should well, maybe not. Second fix. Click on my comments. I'm not sure why Chelsea's are the only ones that come up here, and Eduardo, but I think if you just click on my comments, having not made any yourself, you may find that the text ends up being fairly clean. But this is a less than satisfactory fix for now, but it's all I could find for now about how to get yourself back to a clean text. Because as you know, the first time you read the text, that may be the best way to look at it. Because if you go to all comments, you're going to be somewhat influenced by what other people have said already about the text, and I just don't think it's quite as pure a initial reading experience. Now, while I'm here, I should tell you in either form that as you're doing your follow-up annotations for tonight, for the first time to collection 1, this is probably the way to read the text, to find, as we did in class yesterday, the hot zones within, let's say, a given text. So we spent the better part of a half an hour in class. As those of you who are in the face-to-face class know, we spent almost a half an hour just looking at this section, which had inspired so many different comments from Paige and Bradley and Alexa and Reed and Kayla and Teresa and Alan and Sarah and Caroline and Isaiah, and will no doubt lead to some replies during the follow-up annotation period. So I do think there's some justification in the middle of the week when you're getting ready for your Wednesday follow-up annotations. Certainly some justification for reading the text in its marked up form. So that's item 1 that I wanted to mention. The other thing is, if you, in either form, well, in the new form of Salon, if you go to make a comment, what we're finding a couple of things that happen. There's well, let's go back to that my comments section. Okay, so if you're in just sort of a clean version of the new or old version of Salon, in the new version, when you're making your comment, you're not allowed to post it. You can be clicking to your heart's content here to try to just post what you want to say. You need to actually double click this up here as they mentioned, but it's easy to miss this. Double click or type your tag. I think what they're trying to do is to force users a little bit or encourage them strongly to use tags. In other words, to categorize your response somehow as something other than general, or if you just double click this, it does come into, there's a drop down actually, as to what everybody has already used in the process. And I can see that a lot of you have tried to come up with some kind of way of categorizing your response, which is great on one level. I'd prefer that it not be quite so mandatory on their part. So for now, if you don't feel like tagging your response, but obviously if you're using the new version, you'll need to do something because they won't let you post it unless you double click. If you double click, you can just choose general and then you're allowed to post. So, and that becomes something you can do. So that's a little fix. That's item 2. Item 3, and the one that concerns me the most, and I've just sent them an email up there to ask if this is a coding error or something intentional. But as you try to comment on something, you will find that after, by my count, 255 characters, you can't type anymore. Now that I really don't like, so I'm going to see if that's something they can change. That is not the case in the old system, as I will show you momentarily. So that's my most pressing concern with the folks up at Salon, that they let us post something longer than a 255 character comment, because in some cases, obviously some of you have more to say than just 255 characters. So that becomes a problem. But here's a fix for now, that if I were you, and I'm stubborn, I've been using the old system for longer, so I'm really attached to it. But let me just show you the trick for how to avoid, at least until we've made these tweaks to the new version. Here's the way to get in on the old system. And then this is easy to miss as well. But as you're first signing up on classroomsalon.org, if you just want to use the old system that I showed you last week, boom, just click on this first line. It doesn't look like necessarily like a live link, but if you scroll over it, it'll be a live link. Looking for oldclassroomsalon.org, click here, and then you can just come in as under the old system. And as you know, here are the advantages, in my view, and I'm being a little bit stubborn here as I say, but here are the advantages. When you first come to the collection, you can click on that annotate icon there and have a clean version of the text to work with. And it opens up a lot faster actually too, because there's nobody else's comments on here yet. So that's the kind of version of the text I think you want to be working with each weekend as you're moving into each new collection. And it is still possible though at the same time to jump right into the icon with the heads here that they call discuss. Open that up. It'll take a little longer because there's 240 annotations, thanks to all of your hard work. But once it does open, it creates a space where you can look at things like the hot zones that we were looking at yesterday in class about, this is what brought down previous empires, and it isolates, once you highlight that, it isolates exactly who has said what about that passage. And you can just you can click cancel to get back to the whole text and just kind of scroll your way through it. I would recommend doing that for tonight for these follow-up annotations. So that's the solution. And then also the other thing that I'm noticing is that when you want to make a new comment under the old system, I'm not detecting that there's any limit placed on you. I think you can just keep commenting to your heart's content, and which was the old system. So that's why some of you were getting cut off after 255 characters, but that is not an issue with the old version. So I'm going to see if we can lobby for them to at least change the new version in that respect. That was the concern that I told them I had above all else, was that we needed to have that restriction of the number of characters removed. And of course, the other thing about that comment is that commenting function in the old system is that when you go to make a new comment, you don't need, it will allow you, well, it says here to see existing text. If you're unsure, type general. That they probably need something like that language in the new system, and I think just to make clear that you need to, because even in this system, you can't really just save your comment. You do need to actually double click to come up with a tag in order to save it. So it's the same basic idea as with last time in terms of tags, but somehow I think the older version's a little clearer because of the language that they use there. So sorry to be so techie again. Eventually we're going to get to some of the more of the, the content of the course, but I just wanted to alert you. The timing being what it is, they are making some changes up there, and we're trying to give as much feedback as we can to them from down here. So I appreciate your continued feedback about what seems to be working and maybe what's not working as well in the new system of Salon. But my takeaway recommendation is that you perhaps use that trick of logging in using that little trick when you first log into classroomsalon.org of the old system, which will come up if you just log into classroomsalon.org for the first time. It will give you the option, this one right here, of using the old salon.org. Click on that, and then you'll have your old version. But maybe we can make the transition. Every time they've made a change, I have been resistant to it, but eventually it has made sense to me. So I think sometimes the designers are a little bit ahead of the curve on how this tool will eventually be the most useful. So I understand what they're trying to do, but there is a period of adjustment involved. So those are 3 items that I thought I'd share with you today. Have a good day, and I'll look forward to your follow-up annotations, which, as you know from the instructions and from those of you who were in the face-to-face class, we talked about this yesterday, but even the distance students know that as you do your follow-up annotations, this can be something as simple as replying to other classmates' annotations as you get into collection 1. So here, I think old or new version, you probably do want to open up the Discussion Navigator version. And when you get to a passage that you are yourself interested in, you could respond to what other folks have said about it. Or when you get to a passage that you commented on, or that maybe you didn't comment on it, but you can see that there's a lot of commentary on it, you can just find that passage, read what other people have said, and if you decide you want to comment on something somebody else said, what I'm hoping to see will happen is that we have a lot of replies to each other's initial annotations. So if you decide that this is something you want to mention, you want to reply to Haley here, you can just click on reply, and that opens up a new box for you to make a reply to Haley. It all shows up in my analytics, and you'll get credit for doing at least 4. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.